Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. The commanders, especially the legion commanders from the different Soul Engineer legions, had originally wanted to question Juzi's orders. After all, the Soul Engineer legions had lost many Soul Engineers in yesterday's battle. However, after seeing how Elder Kong had nodded in agreement with her proposal, no one dared to raise any objections. Because the War God Empress had the support of Elder Kong, no one dared to challenge Juzi's decision. It was also precisely because of Kong demanding that Juzi was able to rule the entire Sun Moon Empire comfortably. Spread the War God Empress orders. The Great Sun Moon Empire has decided to show mercy on the innocent lives within the Star Luo Empire. As long as the Star Luo Empire surrenders the White Tiger Duke, Dai Hao, the Sun Moon Empire will allow the Star Luo Empire to surrender. If the Star Luo Empire dares to show any form of resistance, we will massacre every single person within the city. The orders were projected by a sound-amplifying soul tool in the direction of Star Luo City. Very quickly, the entire city learned what the Sun Moon Empire had proposed. Shu Jiawei, who was standing above the city walls, lowered his head and remained silent. He clenched his fists before speaking softly, "Brother Dai, I will definitely accompany you when I join you in hell." At this very instant, there were no longer any other options. He knew that even he would not be able to stop Dai Hao from saving the millions of lives within Star Luo City. This was a fact of life that everyone understood. A heavy silence fell upon the people above Star Luo City's walls. All the commanders suddenly dropped to their knees. Very soon, the soldiers and then the civilians followed suit. Everyone from above the city walls and within the city were all kneeling at that instant. The White Tiger Duke slowly turned around as he revealed a faint smile on his rugged face. He exclaimed with his deep voice, "I, Dai Hao, have spent my life on the battlefield fighting loyally for our empire. Today, there's no reason why I wouldn't give my life for the millions of lives of our Star Luo Empire. Take care, everyone. I, Dai Hao, shall take my leave." After finishing his sentence, he turned around and leaped into the air. At this instant, a figure suddenly pounced onto him and hugged him tightly around his waist. "No, father. You can't go." The person who had pounced onto him was his personal guard, who was also none other than his youngest son, Dai Luoli. Because of his bravery and a multitude of military achievements, Dai Luoli had already become a commander. He commanded the personal guards who protected the White Tiger Duke. Right now, tears were already streaming down his face as he tried to keep his father from leaving. Dai Hao sighed gently and stroked his head. "My dumb son, there's no need for you to stop me. Let's not make our family look bad. Yaoheng, pull him away." Yaoheng immediately strode over as he dragged Dai Luoli away from his father. Dai Huobin had also come over to help Yaoheng control his brother. "Let go of me. Let go of me. Do you all really want to see father die just like this?" Dai Luoli's eyes were now red, as he tried his best to break free from his brothers. However, his cultivation was not as high as that of his brothers. No matter how hard he struggled, Dai Luoli simply could not free himself. Dai Yaoheng suddenly slapped Dai Luoli. His eyes were also equally red. "Dumbass, do you think I want father to die? Huobin, take care of him. Both of you will have to make sure our Dai family doesn't die out. We must never forget what the Sun Moon Empire has done to us." Following which, he suddenly turned around to face Dai Hao and said, "Father, I am the eldest son in our family. Please allow me to join you to demonstrate the loyalty we have for our empire." As he spoke, he suddenly moved his palms and planted them on Dai Huobin's and Dai Luoli's necks. Because of this, both his brothers fell unconscious and collapsed to the ground. Following which, Dai Yaoheng turned around and bowed to Elder Xian. Without saying anything, he strode towards Dai Hao. His bow was simply a gesture to thank Elder Xian in advance for taking care of his family, since he would not be returning to Star Luo City with his father. Dai Hao stared at his son and spoke, "You are truly a man from our Dai family. You are a good child. Following which, he raised his hand and brought Dai Yaoheng into his embrace. It was clear that he was very proud of his son. However, his hand suddenly moved towards Dai Yaoheng's neck. Similarly, Dai Yaoheng froze before he fell unconscious. He would never have expected his father to use the same method on him. Dai Hao turned around to face Elder Xian and pleaded, "Elder Xian, I will need you to take care of my sons for me." Elder Xian sighed and replied, "White Tiger Duke, you can rest assured that as long as Shrek City is still around, I will not let anyone hurt them." "All right." After hearing Elder Xian's promise, the White Tiger Duke seemed to have no more worries. He leaped upwards and released a deafening howl. "The White Tiger Duke is here. Come and take my life if you dare. Ha 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 ha." He suddenly ripped apart the armor and shirt he was wearing to reveal his muscular physique. His body seemed to possess a perfect balance between strength and aesthetics. His powerful aura infected all of Star Luo City. The commanders who were already kneeling on the ground could not help but lower their heads and bawl. No one wanted to see how the war god of their generation was about to fall. In the meantime, Shu Jiawei appeared to be a lot calmer. He stuck his hand into his sleeve and withdrew a short dagger. He had long thought of committing suicide after failing to protect his people as the emperor of the Star Luo Empire. Now that Dai Hao had chosen to give up his life for the empire, Shu Jiawei thought of doing the same too. Even though they could not be born on the same day, Shu Jiawei wanted to die on the same day as his brother-in-arms. The moment the White Tiger died for the empire would be the same moment when he would die for his empire. The sky above was dark and cold. The clouds were like a huge slab of stone on everyone's minds. Everyone, including the powerful soul masters from Shrek Academy and the Tang sect, had their fists clenched tightly. Everyone present knew that there was no other option. However, no one was happy to give up just like this. They could only stare and watch as the White Tiger Duke went forward to give up his life. It was a shameful moment for everyone. Everyone would owe the White Tiger Duke a favor they would never be able to return. Even though the White Tiger Duke was flying against the wind, his muscular body, straight back, and the proud look in his eyes made him look formidable. At this instant, he looked like a leader among mankind descending from the sky. He did not resemble someone who had just failed to defend his city. Under the protection of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion, Juzi slowly flew forward. She was very excited as her body started to tremble in anticipation. Kong Deming, who was standing by her side, was also equally excited by how close they were to success. After all, it had always been his dream to see his empire unite the entire continent. However, the main reason why he was willing to help Juzi was because she was a lot easier to control than Shu Qianran. In addition, he no longer cared about power and status now that he had become a Class 10 Soul Engineer. Instead, he wanted to see the Sun Moon Empire conquer the entire continent, so that he could spread the soul tools he had developed to the whole continent. He knew that Juzi would definitely support his aspirations. Because both parties weren't too far apart, it didn't take long before Dai Hao arrived before the Sun Moon Empire army. A beam of silver light was projected forward as it enveloped the White Tiger Duke. Dai Hao did not try to resist it as he allowed the silver light to restrict his movements. The white light pulled Dai Hao towards Juzi. It was the first time he was seeing the war god Empress at such close proximity. He was shocked to see how he had been defeated by such a young lady. "You are the war god Empress of the Sun Moon Empire?" Dai Hao asked coldly. Juzi nodded and said, "That's right." "Are you Dai Hao, the White Tiger Duke?" "There would be no other Dai Hao in this world." Dai Hao replied coldly. Juzi took in a deep breath and asked, "Do you still remember how you brought your troops to attack the cities near the border of the Sun Moon Empire? Do you remember how you killed our people?" Dai Hao spoke plainly. "I have spent my entire life on the battlefield, and have killed countless enemies. How am I supposed to remember who I have killed? There are always bound to be casualties on the battlefield." Tears started to stream down Juzi's face as she said, "However, you were the person who killed my father back then. My father was but a civilian, a chef. Our family used to lead a happy life. I loved to eat my father's food. However, he never returned after that fateful day. My mother cried herself to death not long after my father died. And I became an orphan. The White Tiger Duke froze, then asked, "So you have come all the way here to exact revenge on me?" Juzi nodded and replied hatefully, "That's right. I have buried this hatred for you in my heart for 20 years. 20 long years. During these 20 years, I have wanted to skin you alive to avenge my parents. It is because of this hatred that I have managed to put up with everything in my life until now. It would be too easy for you if I were to kill you directly. I want to destroy everything that is a source of your pride. Didn't you take pride in being called the war god? Then, let me destroy your army and conquer your empire. Today, you shall lose everything you owned. I want to use your blood and soul to bless my parents' spirits." After hearing Juzi's angry words, the White Tiger Duke broke out into a burst of unexpected laughter. There are always bound to be casualties in war. Even though I don't quite remember what happened back then, isn't it very hypocritical of you to blame me for what I have done when the Sun Moon Empire had been doing exactly the same for the past few years? You are but one of the millions of people who want to kill me. In the future, you can similarly expect millions of people who want to seek revenge on you. Go ahead and take your revenge. What are you waiting for? My head is right in front of you. Take it as you wish. Even though the White Tiger Duke was their enemy, the commanders of the Sun Moon Empire could not help but marvel at the spirit and courage he was exhibiting. He was truly a commander worthy of respect. Even under such circumstances, the pride and confidence in him was not battered by Juzi's threats. Juzi became very uncomfortable after seeing and hearing his reaction. She suddenly felt that she had not managed to defeat the White Tiger Duke. Compared to what she had expected, he did not seem to be in any pain. Juzi threatened him, "White Tiger Duke, do you believe that I will give orders to slaughter everyone within Star Luo City right now? How dare you?" The White Tiger Duke was visibly enraged by her words. "Are you not afraid that karma will strike back at you?" Juzi stared coldly at him and said, "I have spent my whole life with a single aim, to exact revenge on you. Why would I be afraid of karma? It is beyond my consideration. Marshal, I'd urge you to think twice before doing that." Elder Kong whispered to her. Juzi gazed into the distance in the direction of Star Luo City. If there were no one from Shrek Academy, or the Tang sect in Star Luo City, she might really have gone on to slaughter everyone in there. However, that was not the case. She could only try and scare the White Tiger Duke. Juzi unsheathed the long sword by her side as she pointed it at the White Tiger Duke. "Dai Hao, I shall devour your heart and bless my parents with your blood today. Bring it on." Dai Hao exclaimed angrily. Juzi glared coldly at Dai Hao. Even though she did not dare to kill everyone within the city, she must exact her revenge on Dai Hao. This was the bare minimum she had to do to avenge her parents. She had decided to disappoint Huo Yuhao by breaking the promise they had made, and was willing to accept the consequences for that. She pointed her sword at the White Tiger Duke's chest. She started to move the tip of the sword closer to his chest, as the blade of the sword released a powerful sword light. She wanted to see the White Tiger Duke crumble under the pressure of impending death. However, she was destined to be disappointed. The White Tiger Duke's eyes were full of arrogance and determination. There was not a single bit, or cowardice or fear. "Screw it. I should just kill him and end this once and for all." Suddenly, an intense murderous intent formed in Juzi's eyes, as she retracted her sword and prepared herself to make the final stab, to end this hatred in her heart. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed across the sky. It was as loud as the thunder one would hear in an incredibly large thunderstorm. "I dare you to do that." Those simple 6 words were enough to cause the entire area to tremble. The powerful sound wave was infused with an overwhelming amount of spiritual power, as it echoed across a 50-kilometer radius. Normal soldiers would only hear an unbelievably loud voice. However, soul masters and soul engineers felt the impact of the voice. It was almost as though their heads had been hit by a hammer. The more powerful their cultivation was, the greater the impact on them. Juzi felt dizzy after hearing the voice, and was unable to stab the white tiger duke. The dark and gloomy sky suddenly lit up, as a radiant golden sun started to illuminate the land beneath it. Its intense glow was cast across the entire sky, as it caused ripples in the air whenever it flickered. Even Elder Kong was startled by the overwhelming spiritual suppression released by the sun. He gasped, "An ultimate Doluo. Who is this powerful ultimate Doluo?" It was the first time he had seen someone use their voice to spiritually suppress everyone within a 50-kilometer radius. In fact, this was unprecedented in the history of Soul Masters. But now, it was happening right before his eyes. Even though Elder Kong could hear the rage in the person's voice, it was a bright voice. It was definitely not Elder Xian's voice. Elder Xian is not the only ultimate Doluo. It was important to note that Kong Deming was only able to fend off Elder Xian's attacks with his Class 10 Soul Engineer powers. It was almost impossible for them to conclude who was more powerful. The Sun Moon Empire had only gained the upper hand because of their soul tools. Because of them, their individual fighting power was enhanced, while their enemies' combat ability was reduced. If Star Luo City was to gain the help of another ultimate Doluo, it would be a very difficult victory for the Sun Moon Empire. They would have to sustain a heavy cost to take down Star Luo City. How could Elder Kong not be worried about the appearance of this mysterious ultimate Doluo? In addition, as a Class 10 Soul Engineer, he was able to tell that this newcomer was probably more powerful than Elder Xian. He or she was not just an ordinary ultimate Doluo. Even Elder Kong was not confident of defeating this person. However, there was one person who was even more shocked than Elder Kong. The person was none other than the War God Empress, who was standing behind him. After hearing the loud exclamation from the sky, Juzi might have been momentarily overwhelmed by a dizzying sensation. However, after she composed herself, her body started to tremble uncontrollably. She was not trembling in excitement this time around. On the contrary, she was trembling with fear. That was right. She was trembling with fear. The reason was that she knew whose voice that was. That was precisely why she was so scared of his sudden appearance. He was the person whom she really did not want to see at this very instant. Even though the golden sun was irradiating the land with its brilliant, intense glow, the air started to become incredibly cold. Snowflakes started to fall from the sky as they enveloped the entire battlefield. It was important to note that it was only the start of autumn at Star Luo City. However, the ambient temperature was plunging at an insane speed. In fact, it was so cold that the snowflakes were just drifting about in the sky. For some strange reason, they could not land on the ground. A silver light flickered from the distant sky. During its first flicker, it appeared to be at the furthest end of the sky. However, when it flickered again, it was already right before Juzi and Kong Deming. Two figures appeared in the air right before the Sun Moon Empire's army. Is that him? Is it really him? Juzi almost stumbled as her mind turned completely blank. Kong Deming immediately raised his hand and dragged the White Tiger Duke towards him. He used his soul tool to control and suppress him. At this instant, it was apparent that the people who had exclaimed earlier were a man and a woman. The man was wearing a long pale blue robe. His long hair was swaying in the wind behind his back. While he was undeniably handsome, he had an aura which seemed to give off the impression that he was no longer affected by worldly concerns. Snowflakes spiraled around his body in a continuous fashion. Whenever the snowflakes were about to disappear, they would give off a faint silver glow which was almost indiscernible to the eye. The female who was standing by his side was even more radiant. Her long violet hair draped from her head to her toes. Her breathtaking looks were definitely more than enough to bring shame to the moon. Her violet eyes were absolutely mesmerizing. A gentle and warm golden glow flickered around her body, and there was a faint dragon roar every time the golden light flickered. Audible gasps could already be heard around Juzi. Is that Huo Yuhao? The spirit ice Doluo who challenged 10 of our people. The person who is standing beside him must be the dragon butterfly Doluo, Tang Wutong. Yes, the pair who had suddenly appeared on the battlefield was Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. After cultivating for 3 long years, they had finally completed their closed-door cultivation. Those 3 years went by very quickly for them, because both of them were in a deep meditative state. Huo Yuhao had finally completed his absorption of the Evil Eye Tyrant's spiritual power. He was able to use his powerful spiritual power, which was already beyond that of an ultimate Doluo, and at borderline demigod level, to complete his third soul core, and fuse all of the soul power in his body. At the same time, he was finally able to master his control of spatial power. His third soul core was a spatial soul core. Huo Yuhao was already done with his cultivation about half a year ago. However, Tang Wutong had needed some help, because she did not possess an equally powerful spiritual power. She was stuck at a bottleneck, and needed Huo Yuhao to use his soul power and spiritual power to guard her. She was only able to make her breakthrough, and complete her third soul core a day ago. Hence, they were able to build on their achievements as the first people to possess yin-yang complement soul cores and form their third soul core. They had created another miracle in this world. Even though they were ultimately still ultimate Doluo, they were definitely the most powerful ultimate Doluo in the history of the Doluo continent. After completing their closed-door cultivation, Huo Yuhao had a deeper appreciation and sensitivity towards destiny. He immediately sensed that something was amiss. Hence, they flew to a neighboring city to understand what had happened while they were away. They were utterly shocked by what they had heard. They learned that Juzi did not keep the promise they had made previously, but had gone on to start another war, and had already destroyed the Dou Ling Empire. After hearing this news, Huo Yuhao could not help but fly into a rage. At this instant, he could sense his heart contracting as he felt an inexplicable sense of fear. Led by his sense of destiny, he ripped apart the space before him and tried to rush to Star Luo City with Tang Wutong. At that instant when Juzi was about to stab the White Tiger Duke, Huo Yuhao was actually about 250 kilometers away. However, he could sense the fear in his heart reaching an unprecedented peak. Hence, he used his voice to rip apart space to stop her. Following which, within the blink of an eye, he was able to use his mastery of spatial power to transport himself and Tang Wutong to where Juzi and Kong Deming were. Huo Yuhao was instantly overwhelmed by several emotions after seeing her and the White Tiger Duke, who was no longer wearing any armor or a shirt. Similarly, Juzi was also overwhelmed by a multitude of emotions. As they stared at one another, her eyes reddened. Why? Why must you return now? Why? Juzi raised the long sword in her hand and stabbed the White Tiger Duke without any warning. She knew if she didn't make her move now, she would probably not have a chance to avenge her parents again. This time, she used all her effort and soul power to attempt to kill the White Tiger Duke. As long as she was able to kill him, her revenge would be complete. Cling. A bright metallic sound could be heard. Even though the longsword had come into contact with skin, it was unable to penetrate into the person's body. Juzi's jaw dropped when she saw that the White Tiger Duke had been replaced by the person she had missed all this while. Xuanwu displacement. This was one of Huo Yuhao's favorite skills, and it now saved his father's life. He was able to use his powerful spiritual power and soul power to rip apart Kong Deming's Silver Moon Divine Barrier and complete his Xuanwu displacement. The White Tiger Duke had been displaced to where Huo Yuhao was. After emitting that bright metallic sound, the longsword immediately disintegrated. Kong Deming was shocked as he tried his best to contract his Silver Moon Divine Barrier to contain Huo Yuhao. Scram! Huo Yuhao exclaimed furiously. At that instant, his entire body turned a brilliant red-gold color. An intense golden light was released into his surroundings as a spiritual tempest formed around him. The Silver Moon Divine Barrier, which had managed to contain Elder Xian, was instantly shredded to pieces. The golden light released by Huo Yuhao immediately became silver. Following which, the Silver Moon Divine Barrier returned to Kong Deming's side and tried to envelop him. Kong Deming couldn't just be described as astonished now. He was completely horrified as he looked at Huo Yuhao. He retreated almost instantly and widened the gap between them. This person's control of spatial power has actually reached such a standard. He managed to seal all the surrounding space in just an instant earlier. The Silver Moon Divine Light Barrier taps into spatial power. No matter how strong an attack is, it can be directed into space. However, this person managed to seal all the surrounding space and prevented the Silver Moon Divine Light Barrier from escaping. After this, he relied on his unprecedentedly strong spiritual power to tear the barrier apart. If Kong Deming wasn't quick enough, his natal soul tool would have been completely destroyed. If that had happened, he would have been critically hurt. Huo Yuhao didn't even take a look at Kong Deming. His attention was all on Juzi. I should be asking you why instead. Why? Juzi, tell me why. I trusted you, but you betrayed my trust. You started a war just as I was in closed-door cultivation. Huo Yuhao's voice was very low-pitched. However, every word that came from his mouth generated a weird spiritual undulation. Right now, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion had gathered. They encircled him, Tang Wutong and Dai Hao. When those in Star Luo City saw Huo Yuhao appearing, they were all extremely delighted after a momentary shock. Perhaps the others couldn't sense Huo Yuhao's condition. However, Elder Xian could tell that his abilities were already way above his. This meant that Huo Yuhao was already an ultimate Doluo. Furthermore, Huo Yuhao definitely had a third soul core. This was because he couldn't have become an ultimate Doluo without one. Even though Elder Xian didn't know how he had done it, he saw hope right now. Xian Zuan, fire stationary interference shells. Those from Shrek and the Tang sect, follow me to receive Yuhao and Wutong. Elder Xian instructed. Everyone from the Tang sect was already very eager. They immediately flew out from Star Luo City towards Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. Juzi was in a daze as she looked at Huo Yuhao. However, she didn't step back. Why? Why did you tell me you'd be in closed-door cultivation for a long time? Did you know that I didn't dare to start a war with you around? Why? All right, I'll tell you why. You should know why I chose to marry Shu Qianran. I did it for revenge. I did it to avenge my parents. It's him, it's him. As she spoke, she pointed at Dai Hao. He's the person who killed my father. It's him. He led his troops and occupied our land. It was his soldiers who killed my father. My mother died of sorrow. My family was broken up because of him. He made me an orphan. I only lived for revenge. I lived to kill him. If you didn't let me start a war, I'd need to wait for 10 years. I can't wait for 10 years. Did you know? I'm afraid of you. You're too strong. I wasn't afraid of how strong the Star Luo and Doling empires would be in 10 years. How can Soul Tool technology be caught up to so easily? But I was afraid of you. I was afraid that you'd become stronger. You were already so strong. I've personally seen you reach the abilities of an ultimate Doluo. How much more powerful will you be in 10 years? I can't judge. When that happens, won't you stop me if I try to start a war? How can I take revenge if you intervene? How can I kill my enemy? This was why I went back on my word. If I can kill him, so what if you kill me? Yuhao, let me do it. Let me kill him. If you do so, I won't touch Star Luo City anymore. Since you're back, I can give up on Star Luo City. However, Dai Hao must die. He has to die. When she finished, Juzi was already hysterical. Her entire body was shaking tremendously. There was only boundless hate in her eyes. Huo Yuhao looked at her coldly. Juzi, I didn't expect you to become like this. For your own selfish reasons, you started a war in the continent. You went back on your promise. There's no need to say anything else. Pull your troops back immediately and lead them back to the Sun Moon Empire. Return the territories that belong to the Heavenly Soul Empire, Doling Empire and Star Luo Empire. Otherwise, I'll spare no one. So what if I massacre your empire? That's right, you're right to be afraid. I'm back. I won't let the Sun Moon Empire rule the continent. Joke. Kong Deming was so furious that he started laughing. Ignorant kid, do you think you can change the entire war just by yourself? Even if we have to pay a price, you'll die here today. As he spoke, he lifted his right hand, and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion immediately dispersed. They formed an arc and surrounded Huo Yuhao. However, Huo Yuhao seemed to ignore them. He turned around and shouted at everyone from the Tang sect and Shrek Academy, "Everyone, don't come over. Let me settle it." Bei Bei was anxious, and was about to speak. However, Elder Xian stopped. He even opened his arms wide and stopped the rest from moving forward. "Everyone, stop. Let Yuhao settle this." Bei Bei was anxious as he said, "Elder Xian, there are only two of them. The Sun Moon Empire." Elder Xian shook his head and replied, "If numbers were the most critical factor, the three empires wouldn't have lost to the Sun Moon Empire. Don't forget that Huo Yuhao is an ultimate soldier the Academy nurtured. Now, he's really an invincible ultimate soldier. Trust him." After listening to Elder Xian, everyone calmed down. However, they all turned to Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. Huo Yuhao looked coldly at Juzi. Silver lights flashed before he was already back at Tang Wutong's side. Similarly, he was beside Dai Hao. "Huo Yuhao." Dai Hao was a little astonished as he looked at him. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Ever since the war began, Huo Yuhao had vanished. Even those from Shrek Academy didn't know where he had disappeared to. When they saw him again, he was already so strong. This left the White Tiger Duke completely astonished. He had been resigned to his fate. However, who knew that Huo Yuhao would come to save him at such a critical moment? Furthermore, he felt very strange now. It felt as if Huo Yuhao was a little different from how he was before. Huo Yuhao looked calmly at the White Tiger Duke and nodded. He said, "Retreat first. I'll deal with things over here. There are some things we need to settle between us two." The White Tiger Duke was stunned. However, he still nodded. He didn't say anything further. He turned around and flew towards those from Shrek Academy and the Tang sect. Juzi suddenly shouted, "No, no, he can't go. He's not allowed to go." She knew that Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong were already back. If she missed this opportunity, she would probably not have a chance at revenge anymore. Just as Juzi roared furiously, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineers' attacks began. Blinding lights instantly shot at Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. There were close to 300 Class 8 Soul Engineers, guided and commanded by Elder Kong. Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong were completely drowned in the glaring lights. Juzi shook. Although she wanted to exact revenge, her heart still skipped a beat when she saw Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong engulfed by the lights. It was as if something terrifying was going to happen. Are they going to? Her worry only lasted for an instant. As the lights flashed, they silently vanished. A silver door quietly appeared in front of Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong, and all the attacks were devoured. No matter how strong the attacks were, what was the point if they struck nothing? Huo Yuhao reacted in the same way as Kong Deming when facing the Star Luo Empire Soul Masters. It was just that Huo Yuhao's control of spatial power was clearly on a higher tier. Kong Deming seemed to have sensed this. He ferociously lifted his right hand. This time, his Silver Moon Divine Light Barrier covered a larger area, as it engulfed Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong. The silver door from earlier disappeared within the barrier. As a Class 10 soul tool, how could the concept behind it be so simple? Kong Deming could also seal space. Furthermore, he could seal a large region of space. Kong Deming was the most brilliant when it came to soul tool technology. He had always believed that one could control his own destiny. No matter how strong one was, he couldn't resist an attack that was too overwhelming. One could control space, but what if he lost that control? How could they possibly direct the attacks of 300 Class 8 Soul Engineers away? It was impossible. This was why he only had a simple goal, which was to kill Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong with the strongest attack, while sealing the space around them. This video will end here.